The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you, and it must be Friday. We're coming at you live from the Scottsdale Air Park Money Radio Studios, 1510 AM, 105.3 FM, and the World Wide Web, moneyradio1510.com. If this is the first time you're listening to this show, our show is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. How do they do that? They do that by coming right here on noon on Fridays, listening to Health Futures right here on Money Radio. We've been at this now for almost 10 years, and it's really hard to believe that we are now approaching the end of October. So next week will be the 1st of November with 2 months left in 2022. Where does the time go? But if you are new to our show is about our guests. It's not about me, and I am really pleased to have in the studio with me a good friend of mine, longtime friend, and it's really good to see you. I am really happy to have Andy Kramer Petersen. She is the Chief Executive Officer and President of the Banner Health Foundation and the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Hey, Bob. Thanks. Good to see you, and appreciate being here.
It's good to have you here. And, you know, with COVID and everything, I haven't seen you in a while. So, I mean, it's really good to see you and to be back in person.
Right. It's good to see people. It feels a little bit familiar and yet almost a little bit strange. But, yeah, thanks. Thanks for thinking of us.
Well, listen, I admire Banner, and having served on the foundation board, over the Alzheimer's Foundation board for 9 years, and being involved in all the activities as what you guys are doing in our community and in communities outside of Arizona is nothing short of phenomenal. So I want to give you guys an opportunity to really talk about that. But I also, we really haven't scripted our show, but I mean, you're going through a similar journey, and I haven't really checked in with you. I've shared with our listeners, my dad has been on the show here with us. He's unwell right now, but hopefully he's going to get better. But being an adult child to a parent is something that, none of us really realize what that must mean. And you and I have had some very thoughtful conversations about your own mother, and wanted to check in with you just to see how you're doing and everything like that.
Great. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. It is helpful to speak with others, adults, children who are now parenting to some degree their parents, and I too am in a situation. My mother will be 94 next month.
Wow.
And she lives in an assisted living facility, getting some great care, but it's hard. It's it's nonstop, and there's a lot of coordination to be done, and there's also, I think, for me, a sense of loss while she's still with us. So I'm kind of maneuvering through being a taskmaster and then also understanding what I'm feeling and going through at the same time while she's alive.
I so get it. I'm going through a very similar, because they're a vessel of who they used to be, and the aging, it's not easy. It's not easy seeing people that you love just, kind of start to fade away. And so many of us are dealing with this right now, and our listeners are listening in. Just so you know, there's support out there, especially for those that are on this journey with dementia and Alzheimer's. And it's a great segue to really talk about the Banner Alzheimer's Institute. That's kind of my entree into Banner Alzheimer's. Our Banner Foundation was I was fortunate enough to be on that board for 9 years and see the great work that Banner Alzheimer's Institute is doing, not here in our community, but worldwide.
Right, right. And thank you for that time and the talent that you lent, Bob. You know, the Banner Alzheimer's Institute was founded in 2006, and oh goodness, since then it's expanded and done so much incredible work, but it's also become a shining star for Arizona, not just nationally or statewide, but nationally, but internationally. And it's become a destination center for individuals and families who are just determining they might be dealing with dementia. Is it Alzheimer's? What's the difference? How do we care for them? What's the disease going to progress like? Where do we get the help we need? How do we support the families? So it's really grown, and we do definitely appreciate your volunteerism as well as many, many others. Otherwise, it wouldn't be what it is today.
You know, as I listen to you describe what families go through, I think that's the thing I really love about the Banner Alzheimer's Institute is that, look, we know the research is being done there. Got some great doctors over there being led by Dr. Eric Ryman and Dr. Terrio and Dr. Langbaum and so many others. I know I'm missing so many, but they are leading that journey, that discovery process to help find a way so that we don't lose another generation to this awful disease. But the support, the family support that you guys do, I mean, I don't think people realize that how important that is, especially when you're on that journey and you feel like you're the only one on that journey and no one can really truly understand what you're going through. The activities and support that you guys have for those families is nothing short of phenomenal.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. I agree. And, you know, Alzheimer's disease is not just a disease that happens to an individual. The entire family and circle of friends are affected. And so one of the priorities when the Banner Alzheimer's Institute was founded was that it wasn't going to be just research and it wasn't going to be just clinical trials. It was going to be all of those wraparound services that help not just the patient, but the entire family go through the journey together. And that's exactly what it does. We have the Stead Family Care Center. We have nurses and navigators. We have people who can really help the family understand what they need to do to stay healthy, to be the caregiver. We know that many spouses or primary caregivers often end up depressed within the first 2 years. So they themselves become depressed and they're not able to care for their loved one in the way they'd like. So our care services, our family support center, that's exactly what it does. It makes sure that the entire family unit is moving together and getting through it the best possible.
And the only way to do that is to be in a room with others that are going through that and having someone facilitate that can give you the advice and counsel and help you cope with those challenges that one is dealing with. I mean, you and I had a conversation before the show started, and it's like, you know, you look at this person, they're a vessel of who they used to be. And I think a lot of us as family members put a lot of pressure on the fact that, come on, you know this, or but they're not that person, and you've got to be more accepting. And I think through those support groups, and I might add, I mean, new models of care are coming out of the Banner Alzheimer's Institute all the time. So pretty cool stuff is happening there. You can hear the music. James always finds some great tunes to take us in and out. It must be Friday, and it is. You know, Andy, I want to take the second segment and do a little deep dive into you and how you got connected with the Banner Foundation as the president and CEO and really talk about your background, because you have a very strong not-for-profit background. And I got to tell you, Banner is a huge not-for-profit institution. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we come back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We got 3 more segments. I got Andy Kramer Petersen here in the studio from the Banner Foundation. She's the Chief Executive Officer as well as the President. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. We're here in our second segment, and I've got Andy Kramer Petersen here in the studio with me. She's the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Banner Health Foundation, the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation. If you missed our first segment, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button right below its radio show. You'll catch that first segment, and you'll catch a few more. So when we talked in the first segment, obviously I talked a little bit about something that is near and dear to me, and I had Andy share with us some of the stuff that the Banner Alzheimer's Institute is doing here in our community, and I really appreciate you, Andy, walking us through that. I did tee up this segment to really ask you to give a little bit about your background, and I promise I won't ask too much, but tell us a little bit about you so our listeners know who you are. Are you a native from here?
I am not a native. I grew up in the East Coast in New Jersey. Fortunate enough to spend a lot of my summers as a kid up on the Massachusetts shore near Cape Cod, so that was great. Transplant out here to go to school in '87, and very, very different than the East Coast. I was fortunate enough to have a great deal of time to travel and see a lot of the United States and other countries as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been here since 1987, raised my family here, and we are here for the duration.
Nice. And your experience in the not-for-profit world, it did not start with Banner.
It did not start with Banner Health. I was extremely fortunate as a senior in college to understand and meet some people who were executives with United Way at the time. And it really made sense to me that there could be a career where I was able to be in a professional business setting and work with individuals, families, corporations, foundations, locally and nationally, to help raise funds for something that I was passionate about. And for me, it seemed like a dream come true to learn the world of philanthropy. And especially as I went further into my career, to learn how valuable it is for individuals to be able to reciprocate. So the reciprocity of feeling grateful.
Mm-hmm.
So I got hooked. I absolutely loved it from the beginning.
It's been your calling ever since.
I think it has. I've been working as a professional in development for many years, and when I meet people who don't love what they do, I have a tinge of sadness for them. I think I'm very, very, very fortunate to be able to really, truly feel passionate about my work for this long, and it's a great fit. So yes, feeling grateful.
No, I appreciate it. So if you could take one more step and tell us how you landed over at Banner. How did they find you, or you find them?
Right. So this is a true story. Try not to embellish too much. I was working for United Way in 2005, and I went to Banner Health a rainy Monday morning about 7 a.m. to help someone who couldn't make a presentation to the Banner executives at the time. And the purpose of the meeting was to ask the Banner executives for gifts to United Way. And I was in a dark conference room for about 20 minutes, passing out packets and setting up the room. And at 7:29, the room was still empty. At 7:30, the room lit up and about 25 people walked in.
Wow.
I did my presentation, thanked everybody and was gathering my belongings to leave. And the president and CEO of Banner Health, Peter Fine, approached me and he said, "Thanks for coming. Great job. Would you ever think about working for Banner Health?" And I said, "Doing what?" And he said, "Running our foundation. I'm working with a recruiter right now. We think, I'd like to have you interview." And I said, "Is Banner Health a not-for-profit organization?" He said, "It most certainly is." So that led to one thing and another, and I was hired about a month later.
Love it.
Yes.
Now, did you blaze that trail, or was there someone prior to you?
There was someone there prior to me who was there for a few years when the merger of what was then the Samaritan systems
Yep.
and the Lutheran systems came together to form Banner Health. At the time, the foundation it existed, but it really wasn't very active in the community. It was doing a number of local special events, so I had the good fortune of almost a blank slate and creating the foundation from
Love it.
ground up.
Love it. Well, you've done a great job, and having served on the board and been involved in some of the activities, every one of them is a first class.
Thank
event.
you.
It really is.
Thank you, and right back at you, because as we mentioned in our first segment, we do not get the work done without talented, dedicated volunteers like you, Bob.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I appreciate you giving us that at least, background and that, that complexion of how you came to be with Banner and the foundation and everything like that. So thank you so much. So here we are. We're coming up at the end of the first half. I would love for you to just briefly, you talked about the Samaritan and Lutheran merger to create Banner. Can you give us a little bit of background as we end this first half, and then we'll do a deep dive into some of the priority areas that you're working on?
Absolutely. So Banner Health was formed in 1999, and it's headquartered in Phoenix. We operate 30 hospitals, including 3 academic medical centers and other health entities, and we are in 6 states. We've evolved rapidly from a system of hospitals to what we call a fully integrated health system that includes a medical group, Banner Medical Group. It also includes urgent care, 45, 50 urgent cares.
They're all over.
They're all over.
I see them everywhere.
It also includes Banner clinics, so where you can go into a clinic and see your internist or general practitioner, or you can do a telemedicine call. And we have about 52,000 employees.
52,000.
We are the largest employer, the largest private employer in Arizona.
So when I was assisting you all as a benefactor chair, you guys had 36,000 employees.
Oh,
so you
my.
guys have grown by 16,000. That's just amazing. And it really takes people to make it work. And all those things you described, I mean, the one thing that I would love for you as we close this first half out is the partnership with the University of Arizona, University Hospital. For many of us, we always knew the big hospital down there on McDowell as Good Samaritan. So, now it is University Hospital. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So Banner Health and the University of Arizona formed a partnership, a 30-year partnership, just about 6-7 years ago. And the reason we formed a partnership with the University of Arizona is because we wanted to be an academic medical center, meaning that we take the actual research being done on the bench to the bedside and apply it to our patients. And that in the industry and nationally and worldwide is known as what we call the crown jewel. If you're able to have all 3, so the bench research, the clinical application, and then the bedside care, that's where patients are going to receive the utmost comprehensive care and the most cutting research.
Amazing. And you're connected to a university up till very recently is like the only, you know, medical school that was right here. I mean, you know, they had a campus here, but it just makes a lot of sense as we sit here and talk about workforce and having issues with finding doctors. I'm sorry, finding nurses, finding therapists. You have this partnership now with the medical school. That's really special.
Yeah.
It is really, really special. And I also know this from Dr. Ryman. You guys also do a lot of work with the other big university here at ASU with their School of Nursing and Innovation too. So I mean, it's not like you're just partisan. You spread it around, but the medical school and you have this partnership, which is really, really cool.
Right. It's again, it's put Arizona on the map, and it just becomes a destination center. The depth of specialists that you can find within Banner are second to none nationally. And being an academic medical center attracts the best of the best.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure, for sure. So as we wind down this first half, you know, I want to talk about in the second half, I want to talk about priority areas for fundraising for Banner. I want to also talk about what does it mean to be a not-for-profit healthcare system, and obviously there's a huge benefit here in the community. And then, you know, I really want to do maybe even a deeper dive of some of these other partnerships that you have, all these centers of excellence, because you have a Children's Hospital Center of Excellence, you got oncology, you got Alzheimer's, you got a lot going on. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth. Andy Kramer Peterson's here. Stick around. We got a whole second half coming up. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. I'm your host, Bob Roth, and we are here in our second half. I've got Andy Kramer Petersen here in the studio. She is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the Banner Health Foundation and Banner Alzheimer's Foundation. If you missed the first half, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com, click on the media button. Right below it is radio show. You'll catch this one and many, many more. So I'm not going to, go through all the things that we talked about in the first half, but we talked a lot about the Banner Alzheimer's Institute, which is something near and dear to me, having served on their board for 9 years. We also talked about Banner Foundation. We talked about the beginnings of Banner and how they came together through the Samaritan and Lutheran Hospital acquisition or merger. We talked about a lot of things, Andy, and I really want to talk about here in this second segment, or second half, I want to talk about, first, what does it mean to be a not-for-profit healthcare system? I know that there's a huge community benefit. And I really want to talk about some of the priority areas that you have. And then in the fourth segment, I want to talk about all these centers of excellence. I mean, there's so much that is going on with Banner that I think the layperson doesn't know. They just see Banner Health. But what is Banner Health all about?
Right. Well, great. Again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I think your question was, what does it mean to be a not-for-profit?
Yes.
Right. Great question. We hear that term thrown around a lot, and it probably means a few different things depending on who's hearing it and their experience. I can tell you what it means for Banner Health, and it means that as a not-for-profit health systems, we care for everyone regardless of their ability to pay. It also means that any revenue generated is reinvested in the organization rather than being paid to shareholders as dividends, as you might see in a for-profit company. And as you might guess, in this environment, with inflation, higher labor costs, staffing shortages, revenue margins are razor thin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But being a not-for-profit also means that Banner Health has an obligation and a commitment to provide all sorts of health services in our communities that fall outside of the traditional model of healthcare delivery that might be covered by insurance companies. So the dollar value of those services that are provided without reimbursement is tracked annually as is required. And just to give you some sense of what that dollar looks like, in 2021, Banner provided 1 billion, a little over 1 billion, B with a billion with a B,
Wow.
of community benefit.
Free care.
Yeah, free care.
Free care.
Right.
And that is just phenomenal. And I happen to know some of this just from my past being on the board, but it is amazing that, Banner does not turn people away. And that we have a lot of care that is being delivered for free. And that is really a function of who they are and what they mean to the community.
Absolutely. So, uncompensated care for patients on Medicare and Medicaid. And Medicaid is, of course, what we call access here in Arizona, represents the largest portion of Arizona residents compared to other states. So, Arizona has more on Medicaid than other states.
Probably with the exception of maybe California.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe the exception California, but I will say this: $1 billion of free care. That's a huge number. I mean, there are a lot of health systems that barely do just a couple $1 billion a year, and this institution gives away $1 billion worth of free care.
Right. So let me, if I can, add some perspective to that.
Please.
So of that 1 billion, a little more than 715 million of the billion is for uncompensated cost of care for Medicare and Medicaid. So 3/4 of that billion is caring for people who have either no insurance, limited insurance, or not enough insurance.
Right.
Yeah.
No resources at all.
Right. And if I can, I'd like to give you an example of what some of those other services look like that we do in the community as part of our not-for-profit mission. So we do things like post-discharge assistance and care. So, for example, someone might come in and they weren't able to pay for any of their care, but we're going to give them a voucher to get a prescription filled. We're going to give them a taxi ride to their residence. We're going to ensure that they get what they need. Other things like our Banner Poison Control Center, an opioid referral line, our behavioral health center, our women's services, our burn center, even our palliative care is supported by Charity Care.
It's amazing. I mean, it really is the stuff that you guys are doing, and you're giving a lot to the community beyond the care. I mean, you guys are doing a lot of stuff here in our community, and we were talking about one of the former officers, Becky Kuhn, who just recently retired. And Becky, I hope you're enjoying your retirement. You've earned it. You certainly have. You put a lot of years in, and we all miss you. But I'm sure you don't miss us. But I'm just so happy that you have reached the point where you can do that. But I remember at the end of each year when I served on the board, at least the last couple, she was talking about where some of the philanthropic dollars were going. So you're doing a lot of stuff here in the community in terms of not just giving away care.
Right.
But you're doing a lot of other things, too.
We are, and that's a great point, Bob. And you talk about Becky, it makes me think of the health professional education and training. And, Becky was not only professionally involved in the training, but she was a great mentor to many people. And to give you a sense of what Banner does in that space in terms of investing charitable dollars in the community, in 2021, so last year, we invested almost $100 million, $98 million in health professional education and training programs. So that includes like medical residency programs, nursing education, medical certifications, pharmacy residency programs, and then definitely our mentor and shadowing events. And our mentor and shadowing events are really important because we all know that healthcare in general has a shortage of pipeline professionals, and we want to get into the schools and into the community and make sure they know that there's other careers within healthcare other than the common ones they might be familiar with, like doctor, nurse, etc.
Thank you, because that helps us too. I mean, it helps the whole healthcare continuum, helping people understand healthcare is our future. I appreciate so much the work that you do. You know, we're getting ready to wind down the third segment, and I want to tee off the fourth segment really talking about the fact that Banner Health isn't just Banner Health. They have all these centers of excellence. Can you talk just real quickly as we tee it off? I know that you have a partnership with MD Anderson for oncology. You have you have a children's hospital.
We do.
And you see more patients than anyone else in the state of Arizona.
Absolutely right.
Pediatric patients. You also have behavioral health.
We do. We have a gem in Scottsdale, Banner Behavioral Health, where if we can help you, we'll make sure you get to the place that can.
And you have orthopedics and sports medicine. You guys are like standing something up really soon here in Scottsdale. Maybe we can talk a little bit about that in the fourth segment.
Perfect.
And then lastly, cardiac. You're retooling that too. 3 down, 1 to go. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you're just tuning in, we're in our fourth segment here, and I have got Andy Kramer Petersen here in the studio with me. She's the president and CEO of the Banner Health Foundation, as well as the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation. If you missed the first 3 segments, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com. Click on the media button. The button right below is radio show. You'll catch this one and many more. So, Andy, when I teed up this segment, I talked about the fact that, hey, you know, Banner Health isn't just Banner Health. You got all these incredible centers of excellence. And if you could just take a moment, because I know we only have about 7 minutes, 8 minutes in this last segment, but I want you to just quickly summarize some of these centers of excellence that you guys have.
Great. Well, thanks. There's quite a bit, but we have some that are really known for not just being the center of excellence, but for the depth of care and specialties that are provided. So in our oncology service line, we have partnered with MD Anderson, and we call it Banner MD Anderson. And
that's a name that most people know.
Absolutely.
Because they are incredible leaders in the research area, oncology, cancer research. Out of Houston, Texas, I think they're from, right?
That's correct.
Yep.
That's correct. We joined forces with MD Anderson 10 years ago. We have Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center, and there are so many important needs that we cover in this area, and we have what they call multidisciplinary programs, research, clinical trials, breast experts, all different types of expertise that Arizonans used to have to travel far and wide to get, and now it's right here, and we have multiple locations. We're not just in the East Valley, we're in Central Phoenix, and we're also in the West Valley.
Love it. So easy access for everybody.
Absolutely. We also focus on neurology. We talked about the Banner Alzheimer's Institute earlier, but you may not know that we also have the Sun Health Research Center, which is incredibly important because it provides research on brains. So individuals who are willing to donate their brain for research, some incredible groundbreaking research is happening right here in Sun City.
Can I piggyback on that?
Please do.
So over 30 years, may even be close to 40 now, where people donate their brains. And because it's so closely located to two Banner hospitals out there in the Sun City area, one being Del Webb and one being Boswell, they get some of the freshest tissue in the world because the bodies come to them right away. I know a couple people part of the program. It's an incredible program, but they're doing stuff on hearts and other things too, and Parkinson's. I mean, they're doing lots of research out there. So kudos. I mean, it's one of those secrets that a lot of people don't know that Banner's involved in.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for elaborating on that.
No worries.
So another area that we spend a great deal of time in is our pediatrics. As you mentioned earlier, we do have 3 children's hospitals in the state, one in Tucson, one in Mesa, and one in Phoenix. What some of your listeners may not know is that combined, our children's facilities take care of more than 50% of our children in the state. And our programs go very, very deep, from congenital heart, pediatric oncology, definitely our child life programs, behavioral health. And we also have clinics that focus on safety and injury prevention. And we also have what we call our hospital school programs, whereby we bring teachers to the bedside when these kiddos are hospitalized so that they don't fall behind in their schoolwork. And those are just to name a few.
Right. No, great centers of excellence. And yeah, I talked about the sports medicine and orthopedic. So I was at the Banner benefactor event, I think it was 2 years ago, where you had one of the doctors talking about concussions and the effect that they are having on kids and stuff like that. And I think it's amazing that you guys bring to light some of the issues that are going on and how to solve for them.
Right. Well, thanks. Yeah, we're excited. So our new state-of-the-art facility, North Scottsdale, across from Topgolf, is going to open early next year. And we have concussion specialists. We'll have technology and equipment that's not really been seen in this state before. We have medical education, as well as we're going to provide sports physicals for the underserved. These are kids that wouldn't otherwise be able to play sports because they can't afford a physical. We're going to do all sorts of education and performance assessments, and then we're also going to provide scholarships and financial aid.
Love it. I love what you guys are doing. One last thing I want you to talk a little bit about is this affinity group that you have that is known as WISH.
Yes.
What does that acronym stand for, and what is it you guys are doing?
So this gets me very excited to be able to briefly explain what WISH is. And WISH stands for Women Investing in Science and Health. And as we know, women make up about 80% of the healthcare decisions that are made daily. So what this means is, I know in my house, I not only manage my care, but I manage my husband's care, my adult children who live with me and don't live with me. I also manage my mother's care and a number of other family members. And so our goal here is to educate women on all of the resources we have available within Banner Health. The way it works is WISH members make a $1,000 charitable donation to become members. They can enjoy luncheon series throughout the year. We hold lots of annual fundraisers and member-only events where they're going to learn more about healthcare options. And then all of the funds we raise at the end of the year, the women get together and determine how to allocate those funds to deserving Banner Health programs.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a great program.
I remember when you stood that one up. I was with the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation Board, and I'm going to say, it was like 10 years ago, right? The time flies. Maybe it was 8 years ago.
Right. I think it was right around 10 years ago.
Yeah,
You're right.
yeah.
And initially our focus was only on Alzheimer's, and we realized we need to make sure that women are educated and they know where they can go to get the health care they need for themselves, but also for their family members.
So we've got a couple minutes here, and I want to give a big shout out to Banner because, you talk about a community organization, and we had a global pandemic that has just come upon us for over the last 2.5, 3 years. And, Andy, Banner stood up and was there for everybody. It was really amazing what you guys did. And, in this just last minute, if you would talk a little bit about some of the work that you guys did with COVID, nothing short of phenomenal.
Well, thanks, Bob. It was like everybody across the world experienced something we could not completely prepare for. However, we were able to respond in a way that every single person who works at Banner and is a patient at Banner can be proud of. We did stand up a vaccination center, and we turned all of our efforts to ensuring that every single person that wanted to be vaccinated was vaccinated. We were able to turn on a dime, pivot in a way that no one could expect, and I think the community can be really proud of how Banner was there during COVID, and the public service that was provided was second to none. Still recovering from that
Sure
in many
you are.
ways. We
Yeah.
are, but it was an honor, and it was. I tell you, and I say this humbly, if it weren't for Banner, I think the state of Arizona would have been in rough shape during COVID.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. It was really remarkable to see Banner step up like they did, and you know, I remember having discussions with a Banner employee that I was working with, saying that you guys were preparing for this in like December. I mean, you guys heard the word and what was going on. You guys didn't wait till March. I mean, you started building isolation units and everything like that. Started planning maybe for vaccination, stations to be set up. So kudos to you guys. Andy, goes by really fast. See, I told you, it wasn't that hard, right?
Right. Hey, Bob, thanks for having me. This has been a learning experience as well as very enjoyable.
Well, listen,
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing not only with me, but our listeners, the great work that Banner Health is doing and the Banner Health Foundation, the Banner Alzheimer's Foundation is doing. Make it a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Friday.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.